Hey guys, it's Scott with Scottie B Cards. In this video I want to talk about Topps game used relic cards and if you can trust if they're actually game used. So recently I made a game used relic video in the past and I got a lot of people who were confused because on the back of the card, even though it says game used on the front, it still says not from any particular game, event, or season on the back. That is the disclaimer that Topps currently puts on every single relic card all the way back to 2008. They have been using that as an umbrella statement on all their game used cards. This makes people wonder, are these cards actually game worn? So I want to dive into that in this video and discuss if I believe they're game worn, what evidence I have, and on top of that, some really good news that Topps is doing right now that's changing that statement and what might be happening in the future. This all started, and I was wondering if Topps was using fake jerseys, not game worn jerseys, but player worn jerseys, and claiming they were game worn when I saw this card. I'll go very quickly over this because it's what I talked about last video. If you want to watch that video, it's great. I'll tag at the end of this video. But this Mitchell and Ness tag in this Cal Ripken Jr. game used dynasty card was very concerning. Reason for that is because in other sports like football and basketball, no player ever has game worn Mitchell and Ness cards. So I thought, is this really game worn or is it fake? Turns out it was legitimate. It came from a jersey, either this one or one similar, a throwback uniform that was used in 1996 by Cal Ripken on Turn Back the Clock game used jersey used on April 21st, 1996. You can see the Mitchell and Ness logo right there, which proves that yes, that is a game worn card, but there is confusion on these type of cards because of the back of the card doesn't make it specific. Why didn't they just put it was from this jersey if they knew the date, right? That's a question people may ask. And let's talk about that a little bit more. Here's another card, another example of that. This is a Byron Buxton with an awesome patch. Look how cool this patch is. Really great Twins patch. You can see on the front, obviously says game used memorabilia, but on the back, we see this. I enlarged it here. It says the relic contained in this card is not from any specific game, event, or season. So it brings doubt to people's mind that it's not game worn. I'm here to tell you that is not true. It is game worn, and I'll explain why, and I believe that in my current thought process. It all started in the year 2008. This is the first year where Topps used that statement. The relics contained on this card are not from any specific game, event, or season. They use that as a blanket statement, and I'm assuming for legal purposes, which I'll talk about in a moment, but they use that across all of their cards, all their products. They made it very simple. Changing the copy, that little statement on every single card to match the actual front of the card and what jersey it is, what game it's from, what player wore it, is very time consuming, and you can make errors, which can cause a lot of issues. On top of that, if they claim it's from a specific event and it's not from a specific event, they can be caught into legal issues. So I want to kind of discuss that. In my old past life, when I was in marketing, I was a marketing intern, and I eventually became the retail marketing manager of a fitness company. And we didn't do basketball hoops, we did different products, but on the boxes, it was my job to make sure that all of the copy was legitimate and accurate because it could set us up for a lawsuit if it wasn't. So what my job was is we had so much copy, way more than you see on this, but it basically looked like this with lots of disclaimers and all these things to call out the features and benefits. And I would have to have the designer make it. I would have to have the copy written by a copywriter. So the copywriter would write the copy, designer would make it. Then I would take that copy, have it approved by the legal team, by the marketing team, by the engineering team, and even more people. I can't think of more, but there's more people that had to look at this. And so it was like 4 or 5 rounds of approvals before it would work. And if there was ever an error, I had to then have the designer redo it and then reroute it for approval. It took forever. And so that's what Topps, I believe, is trying to avoid. They're trying to make sure they have a blanket statement they can throw on any card and not worry about it. So because of that, I'm assuming that is why this has become the precedent. And for Topps, the complaining wasn't worth it to change, which may have changed. I'll talk about that in a moment. But on top of that, tracking every game used card is quite literally impossible. I don't want to be a Topps apologist here because I like to be honest. If I think Topps is doing a good job, I'll give them credit. If I think they're doing a bad job, I'll mention it and I'll call them out on it. And I try to be very fair, but they make millions of relic cards every year. That sounds dramatic, millions, truly millions. They probably use tens of thousands of jerseys. Because of that, they've used that copy across all sports. You actually have soccer, well, football, whatever you want to call it, baseball cards, and even other sports. What is it? The F1 cards are the same way. So there's such a large amount of relics. I want to look at one product and give you an idea of how many there would be if they had to actually label it on the back of the card. So let's look at Topps Heritage. Topps Heritage typically delivers 8 to 9 relic cards per case, usually 3 to 4 autographs per case, and that's a hobby case. So hobby boxes, that's kind of what we're going to assume is 8 per box. Maybe it's slightly low, maybe it's slightly high, but that's what we're going to say. Because they do have gold refractors numbered to 5 in hobby boxes, we're able to get an idea of how many cases exist. So 8,252 cases is what I came up with. You can can believe the math, I can actually give you the link in the description of this video where you can see how I did the math on a calculator I made. But regardless, if we then times that by 8 to 9 relics, well, 8 is what we actually selected, that means there's 66,000 relics in Topps Heritage hobby boxes alone. On top of that, with hangers, blasters, other products, looking well over 100,000 just in this one product. And Topps has 60 different products. Well, maybe not 50 to 60 different products overall. So because of that, it's way too many relics to change the copy on the back of the card, especially because they use dozens of jerseys per player, most likely because they have so many relic cards. And because of that, I think that's why they landed on that language. Let's discuss basketball and football real quick. There's only a few sets that actually even have game worn cards, and every single rookie aren't game worn. They're all player worn. What that means is the player just puts the jersey on. Here's an example of Mark Ingram over here wearing like a dozen, maybe more jerseys, and they aren't even his jerseys. They're Jeremy Shockey jerseys, and then they can say they're player worn, which is true, but they're definitely not game worn or important in any single way. And here's an example of what that copy looks like on the back of the card. The enclosed official licensed material is not associated with any game, player, event, or season, if you want to look at that. And then here's even a huge Justin Herbert. That one's $250,000, same exact copy, not associated to him really at all. And so because of that, that's where we're landing. So how do we combat this? So what Topps has done and what people say they should do is use these little holographic logos that actually have the game on them for Major League Authentication, where you can go type it into their website and it says exactly what happened in that game. And it says exactly what game that player wore that jersey in. We can see it in sets like Topps Now. We see it in Inception randomly, the first milestones. I think these are game use bases. And then there's actually a specific set called Topps Chrome Authentics from 2024 Topps Chrome, where they had this logo, little sticker where you could go check it out on the relic cards. And then 2015 Strata randomly had it. But you can see over here, this is a Dynasty set called On This Day. And this is a really rare insert set. And what they do is they actually put on the front of the card, takes a ton of effort on Topps' part to do this, which is great. This is what relic card should be. But on September 4th, 2019, he went 1 for 4 with a run, 2 RBI, a home run, and a 4-1 win, has that on the back and so forth. So that is what people would like. But the challenge is, again, there's just way too many jersey cards to keep track of this and to do it. So the question is, why doesn't Topps use the MLB authentication stickers more? And I think there's two reasons. The first ones is that it's going to cause like issues with people pulling stickers off of some jerseys and putting it on other jerseys. So it looks like they had a better game than they actually did. I think that could lead to like some fraud issues, maybe potentially. And on top of that, MLB authentication is not going to give Topps millions of stickers every year that are pointing to specific games. I just don't think that's going to happen. But this is the copy that's on the back of those, basically saying it's authenticated by the MLB authentication program. Enter the code at this website to see what happened. So what does Topps actually use? They do use game used MLB jerseys most of the time. Every once in a while, they will use spring training jerseys, and they can still say they're game used because they were used in a game, which is kind of like their workaround. That's usually only for rookie cards, and it's not very common. They do also use all-star event jerseys. This Corey Seager RPA, so rookie patch autograph, this has a jersey from when he was in the home run derby his rookie year, which is still awesome. That's still really cool. Way cooler than Jeremy Shockey jersey that Mark Ingram wore, like I showed earlier. Futures game relics and other large special MLB events like those particular games. This Heliot Ramos actually is from the Future Stars that particular year. Pretty awesome. So that is what they use when they say they're game used. It could be any of these, and most likely it's going to be purely game used, but you can tell every once in a while if it's a weird jersey where it came from. On top of that, you can track down occasionally what these jerseys actually came from. So here's an example. These are both RPAs of Trevor Story and Corey Seager. Both are obviously blue, and they came from Father's Day. So what Topps does is they do these for Father's Day. The players wear them, then they auction them off. Topps happen to buy them, and that's why they're blue. It's the only time their rookie years they each wore a blue jersey, so you can track it down. On top of this Juan Soto RPA over here, this one you can tell where it's from simply because it has these stars on the letter patches, and those were used the 4th of July weekend series against the Boston Red Sox in 2018. So you can track down how these players did, which is really neat, and Topps did not call that out, which is unfortunate, but that could be changing. And I want to actually show one more. This is a Jeremy Pena from the World Baseball Classic. Obviously has the World Baseball Classic logo, but the back still says the relic contained on this card is not from any specific game, event, or season. So they copy that copy itself all the time. So this is what Topps has done differently in 2024, which is huge news. I'm so happy if this continues. People are going to be so much happier with the copy on the back of the card. Now it says, again, game used on the front, like it always has been, but the back says this memorabilia contained on this card is a game used piece of equipment or uniform from an official MLB game from the featured athlete, but may not be from the event depicted in the image on the card. Very, like, it's a mouthful. It's longer, but Topps is making the effort to say, yes, this is game used, but it is not from the picture on the card. It's basically what they're saying. So they're doing it now, this really long disclaimer to protect themselves legally, which does a good job, and it is more effort on Topps' parts. Maybe they're actually listening and doing it for us, which is great. So overall, I wanted to include this for those that could confuse confused by this, so you can get an idea of what each disclaimer means as you buy a card or looking at it. The very first one that's game used, this is the disclaimer that is currently out there. This is the new disclaimer. The old game used disclaimer from like 2008 to 2024, assuming this is the new one, was this relic contained on this card is not from any specific game, event, or season. And then you have the relic on the new one, which is the one I just read. Then we have the game used MLB Authentics disclaimer. Here is the player warn from Topps. Topps rarely does player warn, but when they do, they say this: the relic contained in this card is worn by the featured player. The execution of all player warn memorabilia is witnessed by a Topps representative to guarantee authenticity. And here's what the basketball disclaimers are if you want to check that out with basketball as well. So what happens if you still don't trust relics, right? What happens? If you can't trust relics, why should you trust anything Topps does? If they're lying about that, why do you trust that the player signed the card, not some random person, when they say it was witnessed by a Topps representative? Or why do you say that Topps really only made one of one when there could be 15 of ones? Or why do you say that Topps only has one sequentially numbered card, let's say 5 out of 50, and there's another 5 out of 50 and a third 5 out of 50 of the same card? Like, it comes down to trust in the manufacturer and the brand, and whether you want to do that or not is completely up to you. But for me, I just wanted to explain what that disclaimer means and why I don't have any issues with it. And on top of it, the good news that it's probably going to be changing soon. So let me know in the comments down below what your thoughts are and if you're excited about this change, and I will see you in the next video.